Now, I have a checklist and a mirror at the door to make sure that half my toast and marmalade isn't visible in my moustache and beard, or if it's the evening meal, that I don't have a dot of cream on the end of my nose. One look in the mirror is enough to tell me that some cleaning is required before I venture out. To look in the mirror and then do nothing about my messy face will bring sounds and looks of disapproval as I go along the road for the bus. Now, to look at or in the teaching of the Bible and do nothing about it means, at best, that we're not getting the best out of our life. We're ignoring all that God has shown us about who He is and how He wants us to live. And where do we find this? In the pages of the Bible. Now, in today's Bible reading that we heard earlier, we find some of these practical instructions. And the first of these practical instructions is curbing our tempers. Now, I've been in the church too long not to have seen relationships damaged and witness undermined when someone blows a fuse. It's normally about power and influence, not care and service. And it's about getting our own way instead of taking Christ's way. Clean up our minds. Risque books, even more risque magazines, pop culture and the pervasive internet combine to make it harder than ever to keep ourselves unstained from the world. We need to take evasive action. Control our tongues. Again, I've been in the church too long not to have seen the damage that gossip can do. You'll never guess what Senga was up to, or Jenny was just telling me about Mike. You know, the kind of thing. Too easily we all get caught up in it. Controlling our tongues also means not getting entrapped in lies, steering well clear of bad language, and giving risque and smutty jokes a wide berth. I don't know what this elder had in mind, but I hadn't been a minister for very long, and every time I met him, he insisted on telling a smutty joke. Now, whether he was trying to trap me into laughing at it or what, I have no idea. So, as I had been doing, I gave risque and smutty jokes a wide berth. For Jesus calls us to get alongside people who are new or lonely at work, neighbours who are in need or ill or homeless, and neighbours nearby as well as far away. And Jesus calls us to commit our lives to Him. Now, this isn't just us trying to try as hard as possible to be good. And when it doesn't work, what do? We try harder. No, when we commit our lives to Jesus, He changes us from the inside out and gives us the power, really and practically, to change the way we live. Now, unlike some of you, I'm sure, who were brought up in the church and so on, I wasn't brought up in the church. And it wasn't until I was in the last years of primary school and in the first few years of secondary school when I stayed in Stirling that I started to go along to the church because Norman Dodman, who was a minister in the United Free Church in St Ninians, which is just on the outskirts of Stirling, he was the new minister there. And in those days, of course, he was also very young. His family was young. And he just seemed to say the kind of thing that people of my age then were wanting to hear. And so I started to go along to his church. And I hadn't been going along to that church when I suddenly realized that my problem was that I hadn't actually committed my life to Jesus. Now, as I say, up until the last years of primary school, when I went to live in Stirling, I had never bothered much about the church, simply because my parents didn't. I mean, they weren't bad people or anything like that, but they weren't really all that interested in the church. But then all my friends were going to this church, Norman Dodman's church, and so I went along as well. So I was 16 then when I committed my life to Jesus. Now, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I haven't always been close to Jesus, but he has always been closer than any sibling. I haven't always been good, but he has always sought me out, lifted me up, and brought me home. His home, that is. So looking back, Jesus is and always has been the best. And being committed to him is the most wonderful thing that has ever happened to me. And my prayer is that you too will discover that committing yourself, your life to Jesus is, in fact, the most wonderful thing that will ever happen to you. We can talk further about it, maybe, I don't know whether you have coffee afterwards or not, or you can speak to your own minister about it. Committing your life to Jesus. You will never, ever regret it.